Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas, and our guest today is Christine Platt. Christine is an author and the woman behind the Afro Minimalist Instagram account. Her latest book, The Afro Minimalist Guide to Living with Less, is our topic of discussion for the day. The book is focused on the why behind our buying habits, and it challenges the reader to be a more conscious consumer and to work towards living with less. The Stacks Book Club pick for July is The Best We Could Do by T. Bowie. We'll be discussing the book on the show on Wednesday, July 28th with Mira Jacob. If you're looking for a way to support the work of the Stacks, please join us over on Patreon. You contribute $5 a month and earn perks like our monthly virtual book club, discounts and merch, and shout outs on the show. Plus, you get to be a part of an incredibly wonderful bookish community. So head to patreon.com/thestacks to join. Thank you to our newest members, Nikki Anderson, Aaron Ross, Molly Vanderlyn, Clara Jacob, and Jimmy Sherman. Thank you to the Stacks Pack for making this show possible. Now it's time to share my conversation with the wonderful Christine Platt. All right, everybody, I'm so excited. I'm here today with Christine Platt. She is the Afro Minimalist, if you will. I think that's your other name. And she's the author of The Afro Minimalist Guide to Living with Less. Christine, welcome to the Stacks.
Thank you. So happy to be here, Tracy.
I'm so happy. We connected online months ago, and I just love watching you and love seeing what you're up to and your home and your clothes. And I'm so obsessed with you. And so I'm very happy to get to talk with you today, finally.
I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so we'll start where we kind of always start, which is in about 30 seconds or less. Can you tell us about the book?
The Afro Minimalist Guide to Living with Less is a reimagining of minimalism, focusing more on authenticity than aesthetics, because mainstream minimalism is so focused on the aesthetics. And it really just gives a holistic approach and process to letting go and encourages people to create a lifestyle with less their way. Was that 30 seconds?
I don't know. I tell people 30 seconds or less, and then I never pay attention because I don't actually care. But there's some people who will go on for 5 minutes. So I try. Yeah. I learned that trick early on in podcasting. Okay. So there's so many things I want to talk to you about in the book. So I'm going to try to stay focused, but who knows? When did you realize that folks needed this book? When were you oh, people are doing this wrong or in a way that isn't necessarily right for everybody, and I should be the one to explain to them that there's another way?
Yeah. So let me I'm going to break that into two parts. Okay. So first, I realized folks were doing it wrong a long time ago. Okay. But that was only after my own sort of trial and error. And I shouldn't say doing it wrong. I should say sort of more focused on aesthetics, again, more than the practice of what minimalism really means. And I didn't know that I would be the one to address it. It so happened that during the pandemic, it was last summer, my agent and I sat down and she's like, I think this would be a really good time for you to write your Afro Minimalist book. And I was like, you think so? Literally, this is how it started. I put together a proposal about what I thought the best approach would be for people who were really looking to live with less, who may feel intimidated by mainstream minimalism, the unofficial rules. There's just so much information out there, and everyone, seems to be an authority on the subject. And I was just like, what is the book that I would have wished, that I wished I had when I got started on my journey? And I wanted that to be just more of a practical guide. And I should also say this, it's not to poo-poo on anybody else, right? There are many wonderful minimalist practitioners, and I say the same thing about their works as I do about mine, which is sometimes you just have to take a little, and leave a little, right? Yeah. Everything does not necessarily, work for you and your lifestyle. And what I really want people to understand is that you can pick those bits and pieces and create a minimalist practice and lifestyle that works for you.
Yeah, that was one of the things I loved in the book. You mentioned Marie Kondo's folding, and you were like, I actually realized that I can't have anything folded anywhere. Like, so everything's just in my closet. And I thought that was such a great example of like, look, and for me, I'm Marie Kondoed and I still fold my socks. So
yeah,
there you go.
And that's the thing. Yeah. Like, I mean, I KonMari my closet all the time. I just don't do the folding. Right. And so I like to use that as an example where, you know, it's almost like this light bulb. And they're like, actually, yes, why would I be folding things if I'm not a folder? Right. But like, that's how, you know, again, we just get so beholden to sort of these minimalist ideals and practitioners. Right. And you almost feel like, it's not a religion. You know what I mean? Like you can pick and pick the pieces that work best for you.
It feels like with minimalism in this weird way that it is really rigid. Like it feels like these are the rules, or like, and for people who don't know what minimalism is, I guess we probably should have backtracked. We'll get there, I guess. But it feels so rigid. And it feels like, it almost feels like added stress, which seems like it's the opposite of the point of doing it. It's like, I'm going to get rid of all these things so I can like feel better and just live in a space that feels like clean and comfortable and feels like home and all these things.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I have to fold my socks, or like, I have to do this.
But you know what, Tracy? This is what is so wild, which is why I call it and I would have never even chosen the name Afro Minimalist if I had known. But when I started, I really didn't know, you know, much about the practice of minimalism. Like most people, I had been drawn to the aesthetics of it, right? But by the time I was writing this book, I'm like, you know, if I say living with less, if I say being a more mindful, intentional consumer, even if I say decluttering, it evokes a totally different response than when I say, you should think about being a minimalist. All of a sudden, it evokes this aesthetic that we're so used to seeing online. And people are like, I can't live with one fork, one knife, and one spoon. I can't only have one chair. And you have to say, like, that's not what minimalism is, right? And so I think that's where that rigidity comes in at. You know, it's more what mainstream minimalism has just somehow become this represented ideal, which, by the way, is like the complete antithesis of like every minimalist practitioner I know, even like some of the big names like, you know, Josh and Ryan and, you know, Joshua Becker and Courtney, like no one lives like, you know, this minimalist aesthetic that we see online. And so, yeah, I don't know where, well, I mean, I know it evolved out of like this, you know, 1940s, 1950s art form, but I don't know how that became the face of minimalism, but that is what really makes people think they either can't pursue the lifestyle, can't adapt to the lifestyle. But like the minute you say, you know, you just think about living with less, or you should just be a more mindful consumer,
right?
Or you should just be more intentional. People are like, I can do that, you know?
Yeah, that's what I liked about your book, is that it didn't feel like I need to do something. It was sort of like, look around. What's calling out to you? And I was like, my closet full of, you know, I don't think I told you this, but I woke up in the middle of the night halfway through your book and was like having an anxiety attack of like, I need to get rid of clothes. Like I like woke up just feeling like I need to get rid of these things. Cause I knew that I did, you know, like they were literally like haunting me in my sleep. Like,
and I'm
you
not
don't
laughing.
like that.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because I literally will wake up in the morning and I will either have texts from my friends showing me bags of things that they had gotten rid of overnight.
I sent you my bags.
Yeah, I have DMs, right? Look at what I did. I just read this chapter. And that is what is so exciting to me because, again, it's just, we just really need to acknowledge our overconsumption, which is why I start that way in the book, right? Like before we even jump into letting go, like let's talk about why we have more than we need. And let's talk about why it's so hard to let go. And then once you have that foundation, yeah, you might wake up in the middle of the night, you know, and like, I really have too much stuff in my closet and I really need to let it, you know, I really need to let some of that stuff go.
And like when you start, it's not that hard. The early stuff is sort of the easy stuff because it's the stuff that you're like, I am comfortable getting rid of this dress that I've never liked. You know, like I'm comfortable with these shoes that smell so bad. They need to go. Just because we didn't really lay the groundwork to like mainstream minimalism. When you use that term, what are you referring to?
I'm usually referring to what we see in the media, right? So what we see on Pinterest, you know, even what we see on Instagram sometimes, right? This minimalist aesthetic or this minimalist ideal, which is usually captioned by, a minimalist farmhouse, right? And, it's like this 5,000 square foot farmhouse overlooking the sea that has, one table and two chairs, and so like, it's interesting because people are drawn to the simplicity, but then when it's implemented into their own lives, they realize how impractical it is, right? So you have people who are drawn to the simplicity, or you have people who look at it and say, that is absolutely ridiculous, right? And those are the people who are like, I can't be a minimalist. You have people who are drawn to the simplicity. They may try and, mirror that image, and it just doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel good. And that's what happened to me. So I was the former. Much like you, just had a lot of like anxiety and panic attacks, just like, God, there's so much stuff in here. Like once you sit down and acknowledge it. And I remember just being like, I have got to get rid of some of this stuff. Like it's just too much stuff, right? And I wanted one of the minimalist ideals that I saw online. And I mean, by the time I got rid of everything and I painted all the walls white and I had all white, linen and everything. And I was just like, this is so depressing. I was so depressed. And I say that, some people, they love it. They love like a very monochrome decor, right? Again, this is why you have to do what works for you. And trying to mirror that aesthetic and that ideal, that's how I ended up becoming the Afro minimalist, because I was like, okay, so this is not going to work for me. I can live with less, but I got to have some culture.
Okay, I want you to talk about that part. So you're not just a minimalist, you're the Afro minimalist, which, you're a Black woman. You are, your aesthetic is, you incorporate things from Black culture, and you talk about that in the book, which I think out of everything in the book that was the most resonant for me, and I can imagine is probably very helpful for other readers, Black readers and other readers of color or people from other marginalized groups, is that you acknowledge that there's psychological reasons or there are cultural reasons why, we might have too many sneakers, or why we might have too many books or DVDs, or that our relationship to buying might be connected to our history of having been owned, and that there's this deep connection. And so I'd love for you to kind of talk about how you came to that, and then how you incorporated, your Blackness into your aesthetic and into your brand, essentially.
Yeah. So with the book, obviously like the principles and the letting go process that I have, that's universal. It can be adapted by anyone, or again, you could take a little, leave a little, what works for you. But I thought it was especially important that I have these for the culture call outs, because there are historical, generational, like there's all of these different areas of consideration that, again, mainstream minimalism, and when we, in the media, when we see these representations, it just doesn't address. The example that I like to give is someone having two Bibles, right? And a white minimalist practitioner or decluttering expert may come in and say, you don't need two Bibles. They're both King James Version. Like, you need to get rid of one, right? And depending on your culture, you may need both Bibles, right? Like maybe that second Bible is your great grandmother's Bible. And you like to look at that whenever you're going through a really tough time. You like to look at the passages that she highlighted. It connects you and grounds you in a way spiritually. And then you may have this other Bible that is your practical Bible that you actually take to church, right? And like those are just two examples of how sometimes culturally there are things that are significant and important to us that may not necessarily fit this framework of like, you can only have 100 things. You should only have this many books, right? I'm like, you got to figure out what works best for you, right? Find that, that middle ground. And so for me, I wanted people to understand, though, why some of those things may be more difficult. And I think one of the things that I love so much is I have heard from a lot of white minimalist practitioners, white decluttering specialists who said, this book is so helpful to me because these are considerations that I never make.
Right.
When I'm going into, someone's house who is BIPOC, or I'm going into someone's house and, they just go in with this framework because this is what they've been taught or trained to do, right? And so taking in these elements of cultural and historical significance and understanding that these are important aspects of people's lives, right? Some things are more than just things, is what I like to say, right?
Of course.
And then for me, how this happened is, again, I tried to mirror this aesthetic and I was just like, I hate it. And I said, what most Black folks do when we want to like claim something for ourselves, we put like Afro in front of it. So I was like, I'm going to be the Afro minimalist. And what that means is that I'm going to have a minimalist life inspired and influenced by the African diaspora, right? I'm a historian by trade, and, I have books and fabric and just so many things that have like stories, right? And, things that I brought back from West Africa, which was like a trip of a lifetime. And just being able to incorporate those elements into my decor has just made my style of minimalism just very authentic. And because of that, I'm able to maintain it, right? So you also find people that are like, I tried to be minimalist and I just couldn't do it. I'm just like, so there's a few things that may be contributing to that. Number one, you don't understand why you have more than you need, right? Two, you don't understand why it's so hard to let go. So you don't understand your attachments and motivations, right? And three, you may have tried to adapt, a minimalist ideal or aesthetic that just doesn't align authentically with who you are. And that's why you can't live with less. It's not that you can't do it. You just need to figure out a way to do it your way, and then also understand what some of your, triggers, behaviors, patterns, what are those things, right? And so I like to call it a process of self-discovery. I don't think anyone should just hop into their closet like you did in the middle of the night, although you had actually read the book. So that
I had read the book, and I had done KonMari, and and I'd also had children and the pandemic. So like I was prime for this moment.
You were ready. You were like, I'm ready.
I didn't actually get up in the middle of the night. I waited till the next day. And I'd practiced. I had done a lot of the stuff before.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you said that, because I do think, there are people who have not done that background research, right? And, they try and they're completely overwhelmed, right? And like, that's what happened to me. I had no real information or knowledge beyond what I found online and blogs. And I'm like, this is going to be a weekend warrior mission, right? And I pull everything out of my closet and drawers, and there's just all of a sudden mountains of stuff in my room. And I'm just sitting there like, what do I do now? Right. And I'm crying and I'm feeling all of these emotions. And so reflecting on that when I was writing the book is what made me say, what's a more holistic way that we can approach this letting go process, right? Like, let's acknowledge our overconsumption. Let's forgive ourselves, right? And then let's move on to this process of letting go. And then, as you know, step 4 is let's pay it forward with the things that no longer serve us and allow them to serve someone who they can,
Right. I want to get to that part because I have a lot of thoughts about that. So hold please on that on part 4.
Hold.
But so one of the things that you said a few times and that really also resonated, a lot of this book resonated with me. I'm going to keep being like, this resonated with me, but a lot of it did, was that this idea of minimalism as a practice, right? Like that it's something that if you're doing it authentically, if you're doing it from a place where it does work for you and you find that balance in your life, it's something that you practice every day for the rest of your life, conceivably, if you so choose, or whatever that means. But I want to know about when you make mistakes, because one of my experiences with minimalism was that the first time I sort of got rid of everything with the KonMari, like a few years ago, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I think about a dress or two that I miss, that I'm like, God, I would look so cute in that right now. I really wish I had it. And those are like really basic ideas of, really basic examples.
No, I love that you say that, Tracy. No, it's so funny. And this is why I tell people not to rush, right? And so that dress got caught up in a rush decision, right? And I don't like to call them mistakes because language matters, right? You had some experiences, you made some decisions, like there are ways that you can frame it, right? Because again, there's already so many negative emotions surrounding this. Like I try to be very mindful of language. And again, this is me. This is all through learned and lived experiences, Tracy. This is me like after beating myself up, right? How could you waste so much money? Right. How could you be so stupid? And I'm just like, wait a minute. Like these were experiences I had, decisions that I made when I didn't have the knowledge and tools and resources that I have now. Like, oh my God, girl, cut yourself some slack here.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And allow yourself to move forward. But yeah, I really like to encourage people not to rush because of that very sort of scenario that you mentioned. And I think when people realize that this is truly a practice and a lifestyle that you're adapting to rather than an aesthetic, you realize, what am I rushing for? Like there is no destination, like I'm always going to be considering, reevaluating, letting go, paying it forward with something, because as we grow and evolve, so do our needs and changes and what we want, right? I'm sad for you.
I mean, it's a minor thing.
Gone.
Yeah, the dress is gone.
But and again, it also makes us think about, you have an attachment. You had an attachment to that, right? And whatever that attachment was, I can assure you it was beyond it being cute on you, right? Like maybe it, you felt that it best represented who you are, right? Or, maybe you had some fond memory or experience in it, right? But like those attachments, I love that you brought up the stress now that I think about it, because I think a lot of times people think they let go of things and then, okay, that attachment is broken, but it's not necessarily true, right? Like you may still think about something, right? But then at the end of the day, there's this element of being content with what you do have, right? That wasn't your only dress.
No. And I don't think about it every day. And I got rid of it in 2016 and it's just started to come back to my mind. I think because it's also in style again. No, I don't need it, but I just really want to wear it. It was very cute. It was ruffles. It was very girly. I don't know. But I think also like once you get to the place where you are, it's like you're living, your home is beautiful. You have the things that you feel that you need, use, and love surrounding you, because that's like the cornerstone of kind of your philosophy, need, use, love, or one of them. Do the not mistakes, but do the experiences that you reflect on and maybe yearn for another outcome, are those harder when you have less things, or are they easier because you are like more comfortable?
It's so funny. I don't miss a single thing. I don't miss, and I get this question. They're like, surely you miss. I'm like, no, I really don't. First of all, I took my time, right?
How long did it take you to get from
where I am right now?
Yeah.
I started,
maybe not to where you are right now, but like to a place where you felt like, okay, this is where I want to be.
I would say a good 3 years. Okay. I mean, I'm 5 years in now, right? And I'm still letting go. Yeah. But yeah, I really took my time, and there were things I really struggled to part with, and because I didn't have a framework or, a holistic process, I just put them aside, and what ends up happening is maybe 2 or 3 months later, you realize you still haven't worn the thing. And it would be much easier for me to let it go, right? But had I let it go that first time I was considering it, I might have been like, dang, what if I hadn't given that away, right? But like looking at it 3 months and being like, girl, you are not going to wear this ever.
Right.
Stop.
Right.
Right. I also give a lot of things to friends. And I encourage people to do this. Like if you feel like, I don't know, I really love this dress. I haven't worn it. I don't really need, I don't know. Let me give it to one of my friends. And I'm like, if I ever want to wear this dress again, you better let me. I'm like, okay. Right. Because sometimes that, attachment is so weird. Like sometimes it's just knowing where something is, right? And so like if you knew where that ruffle dress was and it was in one of your girlfriend's closets, you probably wouldn't be like,
right.
I wonder if
Totally.
yeah, like so that attachment sometimes is really just rooted in the comfort and security of knowing we have something, which is, really a mild form of hoarding.
Right.
Like when we think of hoarding, we think of, what we see on television, but so many of us hoard because we hold on to things for future use, possible
Right.
future
Right.
use, right? And it's like I have to remind people like that's hoarding. I know your house is not like overflowing with things, but like that is a more extreme form of hoarding. But hoarding is, the working definition is really like, holding on to something for possible future use. I can't get rid of this because I may need it in the future. So I always say like put a time frame on that future use. 3 months is usually pretty good.
Yeah.
If I don't need this in 3 months, if I don't wear this in 3 months, if I don't use this in 3 months, I need to let it go.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I want to talk about paying it forward because,
yes,
and paying it forward, but also sort of the practical parts of this book that I found to be really great, like no spend months as like an exercise or your wardrobe capsule. I want you to talk a little bit about that because I thought that was really interesting. And then also the paying it forward part, because I think for me, that part made getting rid of things even easier because I was like, I know this is it's going to be used, know, and like that's so critical.
And I didn't realize that until later, as you said, those first few rounds are really easy. It's those things that like you've been needing to get rid of forever. Right. But then you get down to the good stuff soon, after like round 2, round 3, you're like, ugh, everything in here is really nice, really expensive, even though I don't need to use or love it. Right. And what really helped me was knowing that these items were actually going to be used by women who needed them. Right. And I encourage people, look for whatever mission, cause, or matter is close to your heart. And it just makes it so much easier to let those things go. Right.
Because you talked about a suit going to, or a dress going.
Oh no, don't mess it up, Tracy.
I can't remember.
Black Casper suit.
Yes,
black
a suit.
Casper.
Okay, I got it right the first time. I knew it was like
I love that black Casper suit.
I knew it was like your fabulous business chic moment, but I couldn't remember if it was like a fabulous shift dress or a fabulous suit. Yeah. I knew it was good, but you agonized over it, and eventually you found Dress for Success. And you donated it there, and they help women to have the appropriate clothes to be able to go and do interviews for jobs. Yeah. Women who are coming out of shelters or unhoused
they're
women.
Like just starting their lives anew, right? And there was just something, I remember how I felt in that suit, and knowing that it would be going to a woman who should be like hella proud of herself for the life choices that she made to be able to start over, and to know that she would be wearing that and just feeling like how I felt in that power suit. Like, I mean, if I could have handed it to the woman myself, I would have, right? Like it just, it made it so much more impactful, right? I think a lot of times people worry, and with good reason, about where their donations are going. Goodwill recently did an article about it. It's called wish cycling, and you're essentially wishing and hoping and praying that someone gets your little thing that you're dropping off, right?
Right.
And if you've ever had a chance to look in the back room of a Goodwill, you would understand like how unlikely that is, right? And so I feel like a lot of people will hold on to things out of, this idea. I don't want to overburden this organization. There's also people, this is too good to donate, their language, this language that we use. And I think when you pay it forward and those items are going to people, like directly to service people in need, or if they're sold, that the resources, the proceeds are going to further this mission. Like, you're like, here, yes, please take it, because you are paying it forward with a cause that I believe in. And, this idea that Goodwill and Salvation Army and the other usual suspects, these thrift stores, just magically sell everything is just not true. And, they only have so much space as well. And a lot of stuff ends up in landfills. And I just recently learned the name for that is Wish Cycling. And they're like, do not drop off your Wish Cycling donations. No one wants your broken toaster. They're not going to find the heating element to, you know what I mean? Like the wishing and hoping is so just unrealistic, right? And so I think if you can find ways to pay it forward, buy nothing groups are also my new jam. Do you have one in your area? Like
I'm sure I've not. I was just thinking about it. So we have twins that are 18 months, and I've been lucky enough to have friends who have kids coming up. So I've sort of created my own buy nothing group. Yeah. I haven't bought any. I mean, I've bought everything, but I haven't. I've been giving, like, we were able to give away their car seats because we drove like 3,000 miles in the last year total. Because of the pandemic. And so they were basically brand new car seats, and so things like that I've been able to give to people. And you talk about that in the book. Being able to give things to people directly is usually your best bet, because you know that it's going somewhere and you'll feel really good about it. And my husband has a nurse that works with him who has a little boy that's, I think, 9 months younger than our boys. And so they just get bags and bags of clothes.
That's
and she
awesome.
is always in need for them. So it just feels really great and easy. And I have no problem getting rid of their stuff because it's not mine.
That's awesome. So you have your own buy nothing group. Yeah. I mean,
but I think there's Facebook groups for those, right? Like you can find them on Facebook or online.
There's Facebook groups. There's buynothingproject.org.
Okay.
And that will basically list every buy nothing group literally like around the world. And it's just really magical. It's a way for you to not only, make sure that your things are going to people in need in your community, right? But like you get to meet your neighbors. Like you have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay. I got to check one out. Because my kids, they need some older kid toys and stuff. So I feel like maybe I got to get into that. Okay. Tell us about your wardrobe capsule, because I'm obsessed with this idea.
Yes. Okay. So again, as you go through the different rounds, you start to see what your authentic style is, right? Like once you start clearing out stuff. And so what I realized is I actually hate pairing tops and bottoms. I realized it's not that hard of a decision, but apparently it is for me, right?
Okay.
So I realized I had more dresses and jumpsuits, and I was just like, that's kind of really more my jam, right? I don't want to spend a lot of time in the morning thinking about what I'm wearing. I want to know that what I slip on is going to feel comfortable, make me feel good. I'm going to look good. And, dresses and jumpsuits, they do that for me. But I remembered even after I had, cleared out a significant portion of my closet, I still felt like, I should say closets, plural. I had gotten it down to one. I still felt like I just had too much. I was like, there's still a lot of stuff in here. And that's when I had heard about Courtney Carver and Project 333. And it was a fashion challenge where you select 33 items to wear for 3 months. This, of course, doesn't include like undergarments and workout clothes and all that, right? And again, you know me, I'm tailoring it for what works for me. So I think that first round, I'm pretty sure I had more than 33 items. Let's say I had 50 items, though, but I'd still whittled it down. And I was like, let me see if I can do this. And then I just loved it, Tracy. Like it just made my morning. I was like, oh my gosh, this is everything. And then winter rolled around because I started spring, summer. It was a dream. Winter rolled around and I remembered how much I hated winter. And I was like, I need a uniform. I just need a uniform. And I just have like a winter uniform where, it's either, like a t-shirt and a blazer and jeans when it starts to get really cold, chunky sweater and jeans. But it's just like this uniform. I know what I'm going to wear. It's never going to be this heavy lift of deciding what I'm going to put on. And so what has resulted is, this really curated, beautiful wardrobe that I love that y'all see all the time. Y'all are always like, oh my God, you look so beautiful. And I'm just like, my jumpsuit,
Yeah.
And so I really like to encourage people to, as you're decluttering and going through your closet and going through your things, like, what are some of the silhouettes that you naturally gravitate to? Because here's the thing, Tracy, and like, even in the morning when you're going through that whole hectic rush, what do I wear? What do I wear? You can try on 3 to 4 different outfits. By the time you look at that clock and you only have 5 minutes, what do you naturally gravitate to? Right? It's the same pairs of jeans. It's the same dress, right? It's the same. And like, that's sort of like a clue for what your authentic style is. What silhouettes work best for you? What makes you feel most comfortable? What makes you feel more beautiful? And as a result, now when I go into stores, I can see a pretty top and I can just acknowledge it for what it is, which is a pretty top. And I can say, Christine, you hate pairing tops and bottoms. Girl, don't buy that. You know what I mean? Like, I know now that is not, it's just not a style that works for me. You know?
But okay, this is a practical question for me because I want to try it, but I need some answers. Do you have your 33 items or so, let's be honest, or so. Everything else that you have that's not in that season's capsule, where do you store that?
Well, now because I have so few things, like everything can fit in one closet. Okay. It's a really small closet, but that's a really good question.
Like, how do you delineate it as like, this is this season and I'm not going to grab that sweater or whatever?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think what you should do if you have the space, right? This is, if you have another closet or you have a storage bin or something, like, you can have your stuff seasonally, because it's very rare now that I get something new, right? Because if I get something new, that means that I need to make space for it. So I got to get rid of something else. Right. And so I don't really like, it's not this idea that you're going to be purchasing 33 new items every season.
Of course,
right.
Of course.
It's like, when you get into that next season, you'll say like, oh, you know what? I only wore this sweater a few times. Maybe it's time for me to pay it forward with this. And I can get a sweater that I saw that I really liked, right? And so you may be replacing 1 or 2 items per season, but you just keep them in a place where they can be stored and ready for next season. And it's really a dream. I love it.
Okay. I can't wait to
try. Big fan of Project 333.
Okay, I'm going to do it. I love a challenge more than anything, even more than decluttering. I love a challenge. Okay, the last thing I want to touch on in the book before we take a quick break is gifts. Yes. Because gifts are a motherfucker, I feel. Because they can sort of be a burden, It's like, I'm trying
sort
to.
Of?
Well, sometimes you get a gift that's really great that you love and you're like, this is a dream. It's rare. It's rare. Usually for me, that's food, which is a gift, or like maybe a candle or something. But those are the kind of gifts that you talk about, people who are striving to, or who are in the practice of being minimalist. You talk about them giving those kinds of gifts that can be used up, gifts that can disappear. Yeah. But you also talk about how to deal with gifts that you don't want.
It's so important, Tracy. It's so important. And I tell people this all the time, like, saying no is not mean. It is setting boundaries, right? It's saying no, thank you. When you open that thing, whether or not you want it, right? And if you allow it to come into your life, if you welcome it into your life, into your home, you feel responsible for it, right? And so that's the thing. For me, I had to get to a point where I just had to say, no, thank you. I'm trying to be minimalist. I appreciate the gesture. Like, there's all sorts of nice ways that you can decline things, but I had to say no, because otherwise I bring it into my house and then I feel responsible for it. And I feel especially guilty letting it go, even if I pay it forward. Oh my God, what if Tracy comes to my house and she asks me about that thing? You know what I'm saying? Right. And what happens is, first of all, people who love you, who truly love you and care about you, they will respect your boundaries, right? It may take 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 declines and conversations before they get it and say like, okay, Tracy's really trying to live with less. And the next time they go to buy that gift, they either take into consideration, like my friends do. I'm like, if you absolutely have to buy me something, it has to disappear,
Mm.
right? Like incense, candles, food, soap. There's so many things. If you have, because some people are very much, giving gifts. That's their love language.
Yeah.
And the idea of giving you a gift card or saying, oh, Tracy, just know I love you. They can't even fathom it.
Right.
And so for those folks, giving them ideas about gifts that will be welcomed by you is very helpful. Also getting people to understand that, there's so many different ways that you can do gift giving. I mentioned in the book, one of the best gifts I ever received was from Heifer International, right? It was a colleague who had gifted a calf on my behalf through Heifer International. And I got to know about the village that it was going to, how it was going to benefit this community. And it was just so impactful. And, this is when I was in Big Law. And, my colleague knew, like, you don't need anything, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I want to give you something. And I want let's do like some charitable gift giving, right? So, to just really think beyond some of the ways that it goes back to just being intentional, right? Like this is a big part of the book and the practice for me, right? It's just giving that extra consideration to be intentional. How can I be more intentional with this gift?
Yeah. One of the best gifts that we got for our wedding anniversary that we now ask for when people ask, like, what should I get Mr. Sachs or Tracy or whatever, is we got gift certificates to local restaurants.
Yes.
And that's such a great gift because we get to go out and try a new place. And sometimes, if someone's asking like what to get for my husband, I'll be like, oh, we really want to try X, Y, and Z. And they get us a gift card to that. And we get to go and enjoy it. And it's perfect. And there's no stress. And there's no like, oh, I need to wear this the next time I see Christine or like any of that. It's so great.
Yeah.
And then in my family for Christmas, we have a decent sized family and we do $50 to a charity and a book. So you get one physical thing to open because we're all big readers. And then everyone puts together a list of 3 to 5 charities that they love. And so you announce, like we do like Secret Santa, like I'm giving Christine this. And then also I got this book that goes along or doesn't go along or whatever.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many ways to be creative. I think I shared with you before that my daughter's favorite birthday party and the only birthday party that she remembers, was the one where I had kids bring canned goods. They were only supposed to bring one canned good to get entry into this ridiculously massive carnival that I had created in the backyard. I wasn't a minimalist yet. But, it's just like, I knew Nala did not need another thing. And I was just like, I'll just they can just bring a canned good and we can donate it to our local food pantry. And it was like the night before the party and the morning of these parents were like frantically texting. They're like cleaning out the pantry. I thought they were what's happening? And I was like, what is going on? And we just had bags and bags and bags of groceries to donate to our local food pantry. Right. And it made me think like we could be doing more charitable parties and gifts, right? And the kids were so excited. I had them sign a card, thanking the food pantry folks for their work. And it was just a very impactful moment. And I think it speaks volumes that that's the only party that she remembers and that she talks about, right? So getting parents to think about, is your kid's birthday in the summer? Maybe you can do a back to school drive. Is your kid's birthday in the winter? Maybe you can do a winter clothing drive, right? Like there's so many organizations, people, communities that are in need. And most of us have way more than we need,
Yeah, it's so good. And yeah. And for people who receive gifts that they don't love, myself, I'm a very picky person to give things to. Just let those things go. You don't have to keep
let them go. You don't have to keep them. And the first thing that I do is offer them back to the giver. Well, first of all, at this point, they're not coming in my house. But I remember when I was first starting to realize, like, Christine, the gift giving is out of control. I would say, this is very beautiful, but, I know me and I'm not going to wear it. Would you like to receive it back, or would you like me to, find a loving home for it? But I just want to be,
Right.
fully transparent and let you know that I'm just not going to wear it,
It's a no for me.
It's a no for me, doll,
Okay, let's take a quick break and then we'll be back. Valentine's Day is upon us, and I've got love on the brain. Love for books, duh, of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind the scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to tracythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the Stacks. We're back. We're going to talk a bit about your writing process. So one of the things that I have seen on your Instagram is the space in which you did write some of this book, or did write, I think, the majority of this book. Explain it to people. Give us a sense of what your writing setup is like. Also, please fill in the scene. Are there snacks and beverages? Do you listen to music? Is there a candle? Like, what's the vibe as you write at this desk near the window? Or now it's near the window. It wasn't always near the window.
Now it's near the window. Yeah, that's the other thing about minimalism. Like, you have everything that you love in your house, and all you do is just move it from room to room and space to space. Yeah, so it's very interesting. I did, I wrote a lot of this book at home, but I also wrote a lot of this book at Eaton Workshop, DC, and it just ended up being a beautiful co-working space that me and a few other DC writers basically had like all to ourselves during the pandemic. And as you know, Jason Reynolds was one of those writers, Kimon Felix, Jonalyn Holland. Like, we had our separate offices, but it was so beautiful because we could like all have dinner together, or we could, like go down the hall and I could say like, Jay, listen to this right quick, right? Like, how do you think this sounds? That kind of thing. And so that was like a really magical experience, because even though, a lot of writing happens in isolation, the pandemic was just a little too isolating for us all the time. And we were like, actually, we need community. Not a lot of community because we all have deadlines, but I just don't want to be in isolation, writing in isolation all the time. So I give Eaton Workshop DC a shout out in my acknowledgments, because I would have never completed this book without them. And I say that because as you talk about set the scene, folks like Jay and Kimon and Jonalyn are much better with managing their diet. And so
we know this about Jason. He doesn't like eat anything delicious. He eats like vegetables and like
he's so
water.
Freaking healthy, so healthy. But then he also is like, Christine, at 6:00, like, we're gonna go downstairs and eat. And I would be like, but what? No, like, I'm a grown man. I need to eat, right? Or, Kimon would be like, I'm hungry. Let's go. And so it helped having folks there to just kind of keep me on track and remind me that it was time to eat, because I am one of those writers that, like, I just get caught up in the work right? And then I look at the clock and I'm like, is it 7 o'clock? And then I stand up and I'm dizzy and, I'm like, why am I so dizzy? Oh yeah, you haven't eaten all day, right? And so it also really helped me get a better balance in terms of like, you got to eat, Christine. You got to get up and move. You got to walk, And then when I'm home, um, it is much worse. I'm not going to lie. Because my house is super cozy. The refrigerator's right there. The bed is also right there, So I will transition from the desk to the bed. And I know I shouldn't write in bed, but then I'll write in bed and then I'll take a nap. And it's definitely less structure. Right. At home, but there is this comfort, especially when I'm like really, really up against a deadline, that, if I need to write until 1 a.m. and then fall into bed and just take a little nap and then get up because the edits are due at 6 a.m., I can do that. When the weather was really nice, the thing about writing with friends, especially with people like Jason, who has obviously, he would hate that I say this, but really has mastered, I would say, much of this craft, is that he could be done with what he needs to be done within 6 hours. Right. And he'd be like, it's gorgeous outside. Let's go. And then I'd look up and we'd be outside for like 4 hours. And I'm like, damn it. But it was good. Again, I'm very grateful for that time. I don't think that I'd ever been around so many other writers to get to see like how they manage their craft. What are some things that I could be doing differently? What are some things that are, helpful? What are some things that are a hindrance? And so, yeah, it was just a really magical time.
You all kind of made up your own like writer's retreat almost.
We had like a whole writer's retreat during COVID. And then, it's one of those things too, where, and Jonalyn as well is part of the Rhode Island Writers Colony. Jason is our artistic director, which is why we, have such a close relationship with him. But we never had a chance to spend that much time because he was always traveling. He was like all over the place. And so, yeah, we were all like especially just grateful because it was like we had an opportunity to write and work in projects in isolation with, one of our generation's greatest writers. So it was a really magical time. And now we're out of COVID and now we're all like, what do we do? So I've been writing at home. Recently, the world reopening, it's been a bit much.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I found a lot of comfort now writing at home. I have moved my desk away from the window, Tracy. It is out in my living room where I'm less distracted. And I've found a really good rhythm, and I've definitely kept up some of the practices that I learned from my friends during that time, in isolation.
That's so cool that you all were able to find that.
It was so cool.
I'm so jealous, like being home alone versus like knowing you all were being together. Isn't Eaton also like a hotel?
It is. It is like the social justice hospitality space. It's just a magical place in general. And they have very limited office spaces. And of course, during the pandemic, no one was in their office spaces or very few people. And so, we just had like it was so cool. Like it's definitely something I want to write about one day because it was just super magical.
We haven't even talked about kind of your origin story, your pre-Afro minimalist self, but you're a writer before. You were writing before, and before that you were a lawyer, like a government lawyer, like a high powered, clicky clack high heel kind of person.
Clicky clack high heel policy advisor. As a senior policy advisor, so worked in the intersections of law and policy and environmental justice and energy law. And it was a wild, wild time. And, it was during the Recovery Act, so under the Obama administration, and, the Department of Energy had like billions of dollars to spend, which was so, not the norm. And so it was just a very magical time. You get a directive from the White House and it's
Mm-hmm.
President Barack Obama signed it, and you're just like, oh my God, and then it was like, which, with this shift and change of administration, so many people were starting to make their exit. And I remember thinking like, I'm in my early 30s. Like, is this where I'm going to plateau? Like, I cannot plateau here. And at that time, I'd been mothering and lawyering for, I'd just been in school or working nonstop. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to take some time and, let me just pursue this writing thing. Like, and of course, everyone romanticizes being a full-time writer. And I surely did. And I was in my mind, once I left the Department of Energy, I could write tens of thousands of novels a year. Right. And just learned very quickly that, like, the billable hours and the structured schedule that I was used to, that my creativity was like, ma'am, we're not creating from 9 to 12. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It was very frustrating that my creativity wouldn't conform to the schedule that I had set. And so, yeah, that was like my first sort of real understanding that, like, this is a job. This is, I feel like that first book, and the first book for me was The Truth About a Wheat Tea. It was my NaNoWriMo book, which I'm really proud of. There's a lot of NaNoWriMo books that become novels. And that was the book that got me an agent. And so by the time I was home romanticizing about all the novels that I was going to write, it was when it really hit me. It's like, oh, this is a job and this is a lot of work. And like, you do not take on this type of commitment to make money, like, you just have to love it. Like,
right.
You think about it and you work on a book for a year, 5 years, and that's it. Right. And then you got to work on another book, and then you got to wait for royalties. And then, I like to really, I think it's a career that people glamorize. And there are, surely glamorous moments. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And you have to love it. You just have to love it,
Right. You're a smart lawyer, writer, minimalist, human. What is the word you could never spell correctly on the first try?
I don't even know, Tracy. There's so many. I am literally the worst speller.
We should have a worse spell off, because I am truly, it's embarrassing.
No one would believe it. They would be like, there's Christine. It is awful. I would win.
I don't think so. Tracy, I don't think it's possible.
I don't know if we should be like bragging about this, but like,
I'm proud of it. I'm a terrible speller. We have, just like I'm bad at math and we have calculators, I'm a terrible speller, and I have those red squiggly lines to guide me on my path.
Yeah, I'm a terrible speller, and it is what it is. I want to have that contest. I think it'll be fun.
We should have like a really good speller do it, and they'll just be so embarrassed and like, really, guys, you don't know this one?
Yeah.
Someone just messaged me that success was a word that they can't spell, and I was like, I feel that there's too many. It's all the consonants are what get me. If it has a lot of consonants, I'm out. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, if I can find like a rhythm to it, or like this is going to sound so crazy, but I still remember learning how to spell Mississippi.
Oh, yeah. And you have to do the rhythm.
Because it was like MISSISSIPPI, right? Yeah. Like, yeah. I can get that, but like, if someone is like, spell Antarctica, I would be like, Antarctica. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's me too.
So, yeah.
It's like not second nature. Like, I really have to sound out every word as I write it.
I have to sound it out. Absolutely.
And if it has, that's why when there's like double consonants, I get messed up, because I'm like, well, like my word that I always say is recommend, but I'm like, I don't know, recommend or recommend. I'm like, are there 2 C's? I don't know. How many M's? And you know what? I get it wrong every single time. And I write the word recommend all the time. That's like my number one written word. And I spell it wrong constantly. Okay.
Thank God for spell check.
Truly thank God for spell check. Okay. For people who love your book, The Afro-Minimalist Guide to Living with Less, what are a few books that you might recommend to them to check out that are kind of in conversation or will help them on their journey?
Yes. I mean, Marie Kondo's classic.
Yeah.
I really love her approach. Highly recommend. Definitely Project 333. That is my jam. And I also think I would encourage folks to look for books that don't have minimalism in the title, right? Like maybe you're looking for books on simplicity, right? Simplicity is a really good search term for when you're looking to live with less. I think, looking at ways to live with less. Oh, there's another book. Again, this is another area that I really suck at in terms of like with spelling, like the titles of books. And you can, well, folks can't see, but I have a color coded bookshelf behind me, and I actually,
me too.
I remember my book covers by color.
Yeah.
Right. And so if someone says like, what book is that? I would be like, oh yeah, that's the book with the yellow cover. And actually it just made me think, the book is called In Praise of Slowness. This book is so magical. And so, now that I think about it, in addition to, the usual suspects, Marie Kondo, Project 333, this book, In Praise of Slowness by Carl Honoré, and that's spelled Honore with an accent aigu over the E.
Ooh, okay, Carl.
You know what I'm saying? But what I loved about that book, and I read it very early on in my practice, is how it really talks about how our culture went from one of simplicity to one of just speed and this constant need to get things done or be doing things. And it was really with the invention of the light bulb and the invention of the clock. And that was like changed everything for us. And so that book talks about everything from living slow to cooking slow, if you are a partner, to making love slow. Like it is just it's a beautiful book. So yes.
I love it. Okay, last one. If you could have one person, dead or alive, read your book, who would it be?
Oh, I mean, I just love Octavia Butler.
Okay.
I know she would be like, girl, I'm not trying to be a minimalist, but I'd be like, but I just want you to read my book.
That's fair.
She's the reason I started writing. She was the reason I wrote The Truth About a Wheat Tea. And I just admire her approach to breaking barriers and, making a space and a name for herself in the literary world in genres that, we're not really welcoming or accepting of, Black women writers in that space at that time, which I guess is kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a conversation for sure. Well, Christine, this has been so great. Thank you so much. Everybody at home, I will link to all of Christine's platforms and where you can find her on Instagram so you too can fall in love with her beautiful home and her beautiful energy and just everything. And Christine, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Tracy. This was the best.
This was so good. Everyone else, we will see you in the stacks. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Christine for being my guest. I'd also like to thank Nicole Dewey for making this interview possible. Our July book club pick is The Best We Could Do by T. Bowie, and we will discuss the book on Wednesday, July 28th with Mira Jacob. If you like what you hear, consider supporting The Stacks by going to patreon.com/thestacks. Please make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and if you're listening through Apple Podcasts, take a moment to leave us a rating and a review. For more from The Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram and at The Stacks Pod _ on Twitter. And check out our website, thestackspodcast.com. Sebastian Alcala is our sound editor and producer. Our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Tegirages. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.